Along with Goldberg, the Dudley Boyz are to be welcomed into the Hall of Fame at this year's ceremony in New Orleans, and won't that just be lovely for us all? Though many fans now view the accomplishment as hollow, Bubba Ray and Dvon will become only the 12th group to grace the Hall of Fame when they enter on the 6th of April. They'll join an elite roster including the likes of the Fabulous Freebirds, the Rock and Roll Express, and of course, the Four Horsemen. If you can see me right now, I'm doing that little sign thing with my hand. Suffice to say, there's no way you can be included on a list that prestigious unless you've done a hell of a lot for the wrestling business, just as there's no way you can do a hell of a lot for the wrestling business without one or two hiccups along the way. My name is Simon from What Culture, and this is 10 Things WWE wants you to forget about the Dudley Boyz. Number 10, Bubba Stutter. Wrestling fans who didn't keep an eye on the Monday Night War's forgotten third company might be oblivious to the fact that Bubba underwent a slight name change after jumping from ECW to WWE. It wasn't exactly significant, he just went from Bubba to Bubba, and that's B-U-H-B-U-H to B-U-B-B-A, the former having been originally spelled that way because the original babyface version of his character spoke with a stutter. Curious character trait reborn during his first few weeks on Monday Night Raw. Unsurprisingly, it was dropped quite soon without any explanation. It's still not really clear why this decision was taken either. If you were being charitable, you might offer that bosses were perhaps worried about offending people who had the condition in real life. That didn't stop Goldust from getting Tourette's a couple of years later, so maybe everyone just realised this wasn't a very good idea. Number 9, their legal battle with WWE. Considering that Goldust became Black Rain and the New Age Outlaws became the Voodoo Kin Mafia when they all migrated to the Impact Zone, the Dudley Boyz were quite fortunate to end up with Team 3D as their TNA name. Individually, they were referred to as Brother Ray and Brother Dvon, with the rest of their shtick more or less the same, but the surname was never alluded to outside the occasional commentary slip-up, and this was due to the legal battle that followed their 2005 WWE departure. The company was reluctant to let them take their famous moniker to a rival promotion, while the duo, who had been using it since the mid-90s, had understandably grown attached. It's like you being called John and me knocking on your door one day and saying, nope, you're now Steve. Inevitably, the might of WWE's legal team proved itself an obstacle too great for the former ECW pairing to overcome. They accepted defeat in the courtroom, but the animosity between the two parties, well, that took some time to ease. Number 8, their Decade in TNA. Like 2017 Hall of Fame inductee Kurt Angle, the Dudley Boyz actually spent a larger portion of their careers competing in a TNA ring than they did a WWE one. They spent around 7 years total over 2 stints with WWE, compared to a decade they spent on the books of TNA, Impact, GFW, whatever they're calling it today. Regular WWE viewers will know that the company has, over recent years, taken a more relaxed approach to referencing other promotions such as New Japan Pro Wrestling and Ring of Honor. However, the lack of mentions TNA receives will result in their Hall of Fame introduction likely receiving vague and fleeting references to their careers as singles and double stars between 2005 and 2015. They'll probably just say they went away for a long lie down. Number 7, this isn't their first Hall of Fame induction. It seems a little bit mean-spirited to ridicule TNA for having their own Hall of Fame, but they really don't help themselves by staging the ceremony on the eve of Bound for Glory, their answer to WrestleMania. It's like they want people to refer to them as WWE Light. In one sense though, getting the nod from TNA is a little bit more meaningful. They've only ever inducted 7 people, and that would be Sting, Kurt Angle, Jeff Jarrett, Earl Hebner, Girl Kim, and Team 3D, all of them having played a major role in their history in comparison to someone like Arnold Schwarzenegger in WWE's Celebrity Wing. Don't get me wrong, I love Arnie, but I understand the argument. Though smaller in scale, Bubba Ray and Dvon have already had emotional moments in front of an audience of their peers. Their April 2018 speeches may have to be the material they left crumpled up on their desks at home the first time around. So, as with Angle and Sting, Louis got beaten to the post. Number 6, Reverend Dvon. After 3 years of being one of the hottest tag teams in the company's history, it was decided by WWE in mid-2002 that the Dudley brothers should finally head off in their own directions, with Bubba sent to Raw and Dvon, well, he popped over to SmackDown. It's unclear who exactly pushed for this move, because it didn't seem to do much good for either of them, nor the product as a whole. Dvon's Reverend gimmick was presumably inspired by his parental links to the clergy, and the 10-time tag champ admittedly put his heart into making this failing character shift a success. This was perhaps less to do with any inherent problems with the persona itself than it was the fact they tried to get it over with a wrestler who was already known to fans. It's too jarring to see Dvon being anything other than a Dudley boy. It'd be like me all of a sudden telling you, I hate wrestling, you know it's just not true. Number 5, Bubba's failed singles run. Dvon's run as a singles competitor in 2002 is more famous, largely because it was the first glimpse we got of future superstar Batista, but Bubba Ray also had a short-lived, equally unsuccessful run at a solo career in the same year. If his brother's problem was that fans couldn't accept his change of character, Bubba's was perhaps that he didn't do anything differently. His act was pretty much unchanged from when he was competing in a two-piece, inviting the question of why the hell weren't the team kept together to begin with. Before long, Bubba was forced back into the tag team ranks anyway, teaming initially with Spike, the so-called runt of the Dudley litter, before being reunited with Dvon at the end of the year. The real shame here is that Bubba would go on to prove, during his TNA run as Bubba Ray, that he did in fact have bucket loads of potential as a single star. WWE, for all its experience and expertise, didn't know how to get it out of him. Number 4, violence against women. WWE have since imposed a blanket ban on portrayals of men attacking women, but back in the Attitude Era, it was pretty much commonplace, especially with the Dudley Boyz. Dvon, and in particular Bubba Ray, enjoyed nothing more than power bombing a member of the female locker room through a table. Disturbingly, Bubba would then slip into what Michael Cole referred to as a euphoric trance. Such was the enjoyment he derived from perpetrating extreme violence against the opposite sex, most of the time completely unprovoked. It's not like they hadn't done stuff like this previous either. In 1998, whilst the pair were still in ECW, Baloo and McGillicuddy was given a mean-looking 3D that left her with a broken neck. Of course, she didn't really break her neck, but you know, it looked bad. It was used to write her off television at the time, but was the kind of thing that, even as part of storyline, probably wouldn't play well today. Number 3, attacking Mae Young. We've already covered the Dudley Boyz' disturbing fixation with power-bombing women, but this particular incident deserves an entry of its own for no other reason than it seems insulting to the risk Mae Young took to lump her in with everyone else. Mae was just a few years shy of 80 when she was powerbombed off the Raw stage by Bubba, making her perhaps the oldest person in history to take such a high-risk bump. The company were incredibly fortunate nothing went wrong, despite her known willingness for such chaotic spots. There's another layer associated with this embarrassment too, because it also came slap bang in the middle of Mae's relationship with Mark Henry, and yeah, that was the same one that led to the birth of The Hand, and that is one of the most ridiculous WWE segments of all time. Number 2, family ties. Having worked the Dudley Boyz persona together for over 20 years, Bubba Ray and Dvon have understandably become the performers most associated with the name and aesthetic. Despite this, neither made up the very first incarnation of the gimmick. Created as an ECW running joke in July 1995, the tie-dyed glasses-wearing clown was originally made up of Big Dick Dudley, Snot Dudley, and the only legitimate Dudley, Dudley Dudley, as stepbrothers of travelling salesman Lothario Big Daddy Dudley. The angle extended to include dances with Dudley, Chubby Dudley, and Sign Guy Dudley before the buffoonish Bubba Ray came on board in October. Joining as a heel amongst largely fun-loving faces in 1996, Dvon was at first a fierce nemesis of his long-standing partner before the two united as the core couple of the group at the expense of Little Spike Dudley in 1997. And that's what happens when you're that little. Number 1, Bubba has been accused of being stiff. Brock Lesnar got one of the loudest pops of the 2018 Royal Rumble when he cracked Braun Strowman across the jaw with a heavy right hand. But the stiffness in a performer's work shouldn't ever be so crude that performers feel moved to comment on it as a mark of unprofessionalism. Nor should a perceived roughness be worn as a badge of pride, even if it's often been considered a reasonable way of breaking new blood into the business. Rene Dupree was one of several to accuse Bubba Ray Dudley of being heavy-handed in the ring, stating that, and I quote, "I've had so many concussions from Bubba Ray Dudley, it's not even funny." Batista too was extremely critical of his treatment from Bubba compared to the prior friendship he fostered with Dvon. WWE even saw fit to bring him back in 2015 to work extensively with young and up-and-coming talents. Accusations of this nature, others saw all parties prefer to keep swept under the rug.
Gosh, can you believe that person said that about that particular video on that entry? I sure can't. But you should like, share and subscribe below anyway. And also, the people who made this video, they're right here. Go follow them and give them some love. Also, there's more content, probably above my head. Check it out. Or don't. 50-50.